Alright mate, how you doing? And welcome back to the long-awaited return of IMO. And in this episode, I'm talking about the England provisional squad, which has been announced today. 26 players before the Euros. It will get cut down to 23. And in my opinion, if England do anything at the Euros this summer, let's say semi-final or further, it will be in spite of Roy Hodgson's decision-making, not because of it. So, first things first in this video, before I get into it, I want to say I'm a massive England fan. Of course I am. I'm patriotic. I've seen England play at World Cups. I want them to do very, very well. And because I'm a passionate England fan, I have my own opinion about our manager, Roy Hodgson, and his decision-making, particularly with the squad that he's just announced. I do think with the squad he's announced, we can do well at the Euros. But I think mostly that's because there's a nucleus to this squad which he simply had to pick, and we're lucky to have a squad that have been performing well. The likes of Vardy, Kane. If he hadn't have picked these guys, Dele Alli, Chris Smalling, Joe Hart, that have been playing well this season, if he hadn't have picked them, he probably wouldn't have made it to the Euros as boss. They were that obvious. They were shoo-ins for the squad. Where my issues come is with the rest of the squad, people he has included and people he hasn't included, and his reasons for doing so. First up, Jack Wilshere. Now, I know there's a lot of Arsenal fans and non-Arsenal fans that will say to you, hang on, Jack Wilshere on his day is England's best midfielder. He's put in some amazing performances for England in the past. I'm not going to argue with that. I'm a big Jack Wilshere fan when he plays. But let's face it, he's barely played this season, a couple of games at most. He's been caught many times doing stupid things like smoking, swearing, things footballers shouldn't be doing. What sort of example is putting him in the squad setting to the footballers who are doing things the right way and are still playing well and not getting picked? Including Jack Wilshere could end up being a good decision. He could come good, be fit in time for the Euros, and actually play a part in a decent campaign. So he's not my biggest issue, but it's Roy's decision-making, his inconsistencies in his decision-making that annoys me. For instance, he goes with Jack Wilshere because his argument is that he's a great player. If he can find that form in time for the Euros, it's going to help England. But then when he doesn't pick Theo Walcott, which I think was a good decision, by the way, his reasoning for doing so is he didn't play enough games this season when he played a load more than Jack Wilshere, a load more than Fabian Delph, and some other people included in the squad. He said the same thing to Leighton Baines. I've not picked you because you haven't played enough games. When really, we both know he didn't pick Baines, he didn't pick Walcott because they haven't been good enough, alright? They're not really good enough to get in this squad, but he won't say that. And it's important that Roy says the right things because that's what the non-selected players are thinking about when they're wondering why they don't get picked up. Now, yes, one of the big things I'm annoyed about this England squad is the exclusion of West Ham players. I'm saying that as a West Ham fan, but I'm also saying it as a football fan. Some of you won't understand that. Some of you will say I'm just a biased West Ham fan who wants the West Ham boys in the squad. That's not the case, okay? It's not the case. This year, we've just been exceptional. And this year, there's people that deserve the call-up over others. In fact, if we're going to talk about bias, I'd actually say it's Roy that's got a biased opinion here, not myself, because Roy is biased towards the big clubs. He picks people that haven't performed at those big clubs over people that have performed at smaller clubs. Here's an example for you. Adam Lallana, Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, and Andros Townsend, who's granted not at a big club, but still, those four players are all in the provisional 26-man squad. None of them have got as many goals and assists as Antonio at West Ham, who spent most of the season playing a bloody right back. Antonio has 15 Premier League goals and assists this season. Next out of those players to him is Adam Lallana with 10. Now, I understand the inclusion of Rashford. I'm pretty confident he won't make the final 23, and Roy is giving Rashford a bit of experience, and he probably will be an England player in the future. I don't mind that, as long as he doesn't get in the 23. My issue is more that why didn't he make it bigger than 26? Why didn't he go to the likes of Antonio, Mark Noble, maybe even Aaron Cresswell of West Ham, and say, you guys have been performing really well. You're probably not going to make my final 23, but I want to acknowledge your performances by sticking you in the environment so you can get rewarded and maybe kick on and be in a future squad down the line. And who knows, in those training camps, the West Ham boys might have impressed because first off, Roy seems to be making decisions on past England performances. Look at Andros Townsend. Yes, he had a minor renaissance under Newcastle and had a bit of form towards the end of the season. Was that good enough to justify an England call-up? I don't think it was if you're looking at someone like Antonio who hasn't got called up. I think the main reason Townsend got that call-up is because he's played well for England in the past. I'm a Townsend fan. I've seen him do well for England at Wembley Stadium. I've seen him put in man-of-the-match performances. However, if you're judging off England past performances, that's not fair because these guys have never had an opportunity. If Antonio, Mark Noble, Cresswell, any of them had ever had a cap and they hadn't performed, you could say, all right, We tried it, it didn't work. You never gave him the opportunity, Roy. Some people will say Townsend didn't play the first half of the season. You can't compare his stats to Antonio. Antonio didn't get started for the first bloody 15 games for West Ham. But when he came in, he kicked on straight away. To add further fuel to the fire, let's take a look at this WhoScored.com team of the season out of English players in the Premier League. Now, this is done off performance analysis. Now, 10 of these players in this team are in the squad. Who's the one that's missing out? Antonio. And Antonio's not the 11th best rated. He's actually joint third with Dele Alli. He's the joint third best English player in the Premier League based on these stats. Not my stats, WhoScored stats. And he's never even been given a chance or even a look in. And may I stress again, he's not a right back. He's not competing with Kyle Walker or Nathaniel Klein. He should be in there along with Townsend or instead of Townsend. The fact that he can do a job at the back just gives him more versatility, which would help us because our defensive options are actually quite slim. Also, the guys from Squawka, who are pretty much the leading kind of figures in football analysis, football stats, put together some alternative England lineups based on performances. Now, if the England starting lineup, yes, not the squad, the actual starting 11 was picked purely off their performance score per 90 minutes in the Premier League, there'd be 2 West Ham players in there, Aaron Cresswell and Mark Noble. Neither of them have ever got a cap. The next team they put together focuses on a performance score per game, and you have to have played at least 15 games per season. Now, no West Ham players in the starting lineup for this one, but Antonio and Mark Noble would have both made the squad based on these stats. And the third team they made focuses on players that have played at least 15 games, and also it's done per 90 minutes as opposed to per game. Guess what? Antonio's in the starting lineup, Mark Noble and Aaron Cresswell both make the squad. So it's not just me saying that it's a mistake there not being a West Ham player in this squad. And based on these teams, there's a lot of players that were picked that didn't actually make the cut. One person that doesn't make any of the 3 squads, Wayne Rooney. Now, I'm actually not saying Wayne Rooney shouldn't go. I think you do take Wayne Rooney because obviously he's our leading goal scorer of all time. He's our captain and he's definitely going to add something to the squad. I don't think you necessarily start him and I don't think you take him as a striker. I think you take him as a midfielder. And while we're talking about strikers, we should talk further about the inclusion of Marcus Rashford over, say, someone like Jermaine Defoe. Rashford hasn't scored anywhere near as many goals as Jermaine Defoe this season. Jermaine Defoe has proven himself at England level. Maybe not scored bags of goals, but he's done okay for us in the past. So why has Roy gone with Rashford instead of Defoe? In my opinion, it's because Roy is a middleman. He's not seen as a manager that's going to win us anything. The FA aren't making him or deciding his future based on him winning anything. They just want him to prepare our squad for the future. So by taking a Rashford, a youngster who gets experience maybe for a future World Cup, instead of Defoe, who Roy looks at as a washed up player that played in Canada that gave up on his career, despite the fact that he scored 15 goals in the Premier League this season, Roy just sees it as a move for the future. But I'm looking at today. I want us to make a go of this Euros right now because I think we've got a chance. Let me suggest this to you. If Marcus Rashford played for Sunderland and Jermaine Defoe played for Man United, who do you think would be going in that 26-man squad? It would be Jermaine Defoe. Every day of the week, Marcus Rashford would not get a look in. And once again, it shows bias of Roy Hodgson towards the bigger clubs. He loves Liverpool players. He loves Man United, Spurs. Now, Spurs deserve it. Spurs did really well this season, apart from the final game. And they've got a lot of players in the England squad, and deservedly so. But Liverpool, Man United, they've not had good seasons, have they? But they've got a lot more players in there than someone like West Ham, who have had a good season. Yes, West Ham might have finished below Man United, but let me tell you this, West Ham this season did not get beaten in the league by Chelsea, by Man City, by Liverpool, by Man United, or by Arsenal. We have the ability to take on, beat, or at least draw with big clubs. If that's not the sort of mentality we want to be instilling in our Euro 2016 squad, I don't know what is. We want our England team, who performed badly in the past, to be able to lift themselves up and say, France, Germany, I don't care who you are, we can beat you on our day. That's what the West Ham players have done this season. Ultimately, this isn't just about West Ham, it's about my lack of faith in Roy Hodgson's decision-making ability. Is it about the amount of games you've played? Is it about how well you've played? Or is it about what you've done for England in the past? I don't think Roy knows. It's a combination of all three. If it was about performances this season and form, Wilshere and Delph, between them, have played 20 Premier League games this season, scored 2 goals. Mark Noble's done better than that on his own. Like I said earlier, I don't mind Jack Wilshere necessarily being in the squad. Fabian Delph is the big one for me. Why is he in there over Mark Noble? I think I can remember Fabian Delph having maybe 1 or 2 good games in an England shirt in the past. And yes, maybe he has got potential to be in this squad. Maybe he will be a future England player for sure. But just like other people, he should not be in this squad. Theo Walcott's missed out for good reason. Delph should also be missing out for someone like Mark Noble. It will be interesting to see which of the 26 don't make the final 23. Pretty confident Rashford won't make it. Roy's pretty much said that. He's just bringing him along for experience. I hope Delph won't make it, but who will be the third? Will it be Andros Townsend? Will it be Jack Wilshere? Will it be Jordan Henderson, who's been struggling for fitness? Again, Jordan Henderson, why is he in there? He's in there because Hodgson loves Liverpool players and Henderson has played okay in the past, but not in the last year. I don't know. Listen, I still think the squad that Roy's picked is good enough to do something decent at the Euros. My personal aim would be semi-final. I think if we get semi-final, everyone can be pretty happy with the performance. Any less than that would be a disappointment. Any more than that would be pure dreamland. But if we do get to the semi-finals or further, I don't think Roy Hodgson deserves the credit. I don't think it's because of him. It's because we've hit a nice bit of form with players like Vardy and Kane, who, if he was to play together as one strike force, would be the best scoring strike force in European international football right now. So we'll see. I still believe England can do it. I'm still very much up for the Euros. I can't wait. But I do think long term we need a better, more inspirational and more groundbreaking England manager than Roy Hodgson. I don't envy Roy. I think it's pretty much the hardest job in the world to pick a national team when you've got people like me and everyone in the country throwing opinions at you. You know, it's a very, very hard job. You can't please everyone all the time. But for me, Roy's made decisions which, it's not just coming down to personal subjective opinion and West Ham fans saying this and other people saying that. It's just stats, Roy. You look at the stats. Some of these West Ham players have been some of the best performers in the league and you're not giving them a chance. And you didn't give them a chance in earlier friendlies either. And now it's arguably too late. So you've made your bed, Roy. I wish you the best of luck at the Euros this summer. But personally, I hope it's your last tournament as England manager and we get someone in with a little bit more cojones. Personally, this is the 26-man squad I would have gone with. I'd bring Mark Noble in for Fabian Delph, Antonio in for Jordan Henderson, and Jermaine Defoe in for Marcus Rashford. I still have question marks over Wilshere and Townsend. I'd include them in the 26, but I'd review them over the next few friendlies, and maybe there'd be 2 of the 3 that I'd lose, depending on how they did. Wilshere, if he looks fit and he plays well, I'd probably take him in my squad. Those question marks would also be over the new guys I've brought in, Defoe, Antonio and Noble. But if they do prove themselves in this period of play, the 3 friendlies we've got coming up, I would consider taking them to France. I'll end by saying, come on England, I think we can do well, best of luck. Let me know in the comments what you think England can realistically achieve at the Euros this summer. Also let me know what you think about my opinion on the squads. What is your opinion on the squads? Should someone else have been in there? Or are you happy with it? Maybe you think Roy's picked the best possible squad. I know I don't. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. I'll see you when you're older. Until next time, don't go change it.